Bert, watch the door. The paladin backs away from Vinberger as the Goliath begins to wind the music box, filling the room with the soft clicking of gears. The other members of the group glance around the room, before fixing their gazes on an object of interest. With a final click, the box stops winding. Vinberger hesitates another moment, and then sets it back on the desk, removing his fingers from the key and allowing it to play. The gentle tinkling tune begins again, the same as the one in Kosef's head, only louder and nearer. Suddenly, Serial shouts and points as a shadowy shape rises from a small, circular rug near the center of the room. Leyland wheels on the force, bow drawn, but the shade leaps to the walls and starts to whirl along the wallpaper, almost as if it were dancing. Leyland tracks the shadow's movement with his bow, ready to loose an arrow at the slightest provocation. Still, the music grows louder, and the shape begins to take more definite form in its movement, coalescing into a vaguely human shape, with arms and legs moving in time to the music. A small girl's voice coming from everywhere and nowhere begins to sing along, and the tinkling ballet swells to a crescendo. "Bash it!" Bert shouts, pointing to the music box, and Leyland draws his bowstring the final inch back to his pointy ear. Kosef holds out a hand. "No, wait!" "Bash it!" Bert shouts again, preparing a spell. Leyland turns his bow on the music box, taking aim at the ballerina, whose skirt now glows with a brilliant blue. Before the elf can fire, though, Vinberger steps between him and the table, fully blocking the archer's view with his massive frame.
"No, this may just be a little girl."
Kosef smells the air, checking for the acrid, sulfurous odor of evil, but he senses nothing. He looks to the shadow. "Do you understand me?" His words are answered by the small, ethereal voice of a young girl. "Why are you here?" As it speaks, the dancing shadow pauses, and then vanishes from the walls. The ghostly figure rises again from the center of the rug, this time clearly in the form of a young girl, about 11 or 12. A shadowy mist encircles her, and her eyes glow the same blue as the ballerina's dress. Kosef glances between his companions and takes a step nearer to her, dropping to one knee so as to be on her level, and keeping his eyes fixed on hers. "What's your name?"
"My name is Elzarina, but a lot of my friends call me Ellie."
Kosef nods, and gives a friendly and paternal, if somewhat uncertain, smile. "Hi, Ellie. Well, to answer your question, we were sent here by your parents, to look at this old house."
"By both of my parents?"
Leyland glances to Kosef, remembering the diary of the servant. "No, just your dad." The young girl's glowing eyes seem to brighten.
"Really? You know where my father is? I haven't seen him in so long. Can you tell him I miss him?"
Leyland nods. Vinberger walks up behind Kosef and rests the head of his maul on the floor between his feet, a professional smile on his face.
"Now, Elzarina, I hear you're not feeling well."
"What do you mean? I feel fine."
"Oh,
Kosef interjects. "What's the last thing you remember, Ellie?" The girl considers for a moment.
"Well, I was in my room, and everyone left me behind, I guess. Now I spend most of my time sitting here and dancing. I've been practicing for a while, and I think I'm getting really good at it."
How long have you been practicing, Ellie?"
"It doesn't feel like that long. I've lost track, I don't know."
As the others speak, Bert, instead, examines Ellie as she moves about, noting that she never leaves the small rug in the center of her room. Whenever she draws near the edge, her steps pause right on the perimeter. Thinking back further, the gnome realizes that while Ellie's room and the room of Terenzio were nearly identical, there had been no rug in the young boy's. Vinberger poses another question to the girl.
"And what were you feeling before everyone left you behind?"
"I felt fine. Mom and Dad started arguing more than normal right before it happened. But I don't really know what it was about. I prefer just to dance. I really like to dance."
"Do you want to show us some dancing, Ellie?"
"Sure!"
Kosef steps back as Ellie starts to move to the tinkling of the music box, awkwardly at first, with the stiff, uncertain motions of a child. But as she settles into the beat, it suddenly seems as if she's been dancing for 30 years. A pulse of positive energy fills the room, and she begins to jump, planting her feet on an invisible wall around the carpet and pushing off to aid her twirls. She spins and laughs as her limbs move as one with the music box, a tiny ballerina herself. Finally, she stops with her arms thrown wide and a joyful grin on her face. Kosef smiles and starts to clap, joined by the others. "You're very talented, Ellie."
"Really? You think so?"
"I really think so."
"Thank you! You're my best friends. I don't get a lot of people here. It's kind of lonely. Terenzio was the last person I talked to a long time ago, but I haven't seen him in a while. I think Daddy took him away. Daddy doesn't like it here either.
Kosef nods, and then his smile falters. All right, Ellie. We've got to check out the rest of the house, okay?
We'll be back.
Yeah. We'll come back. And see you dancing some more, all right?
All right.
The group starts to move towards the exit, but just as they reach the door, 2 more words from the young girl freeze them in place.
Be careful.
Kosef turns back to Ellie. Anything we need to be careful of? She gasps and covers her mouth.
I was told not to tell anybody this.
Kosef walks back over to the girl and kneels again, a little closer this time. I can keep a secret. Ellie glances around the room for a moment, seemingly uncertain. Finally, she looks back to Kosef.
Okay, but you guys gotta keep this a secret.
Vinberger smiles.
We're best friends, Ellie. What else do best friends do but keep secrets?
The girl gives a hesitant nod.
My mom, she has these servants. I don't really know what they're called, but they have scales and tails, and they're kind of reddish.
Tieflings, Serial mutters under his breath.
One time Mom made me promise to never speak to them, but then she told me that this one was okay. He gave me a note, and when I read it, everything went kind of fuzzy. Since then, I walk around at night sometimes, and I see these creatures that I'm really afraid of.
What do they look like?
Most of them are red and green, and they're really scary. They're really mean. I once saw Osvaldo get chased by one, but he's really tough, so the creatures ended up leaving him alone.
Osvaldo?
My older brother.
Does he live here? Leyland asks, gesturing around the room.
No, he disappeared even before Daddy and Terenzio did.
So this was before everyone left you in your room?
Yeah, this was way before. And then it was some sort of full moon or something, and then I've always been stuck here, dancing.
Did your mom and dad leave at different times? Ellie nods.
Dad left with Terenzio because he was kind of scared of Mom. And then Mom eventually left me behind. It's like she forgot about me. No matter how loud I yelled, Mom! Mom! I'm here! She didn't hear me. Or at least she didn't want to hear me.
Kosef looks down at the floor. He feels tears start to form in his eyes, but he forces himself to look back up with his friendly fatherly smile. All right, Ellie. You're going to stay here. Stay safe from those creatures. Okay?
Okay. Bye.
Goodbye, Ellie. He rises to his feet and exits the room. The others follow behind. As the door closes, the music box stops playing, and Ellie's form vanishes. Outside, the debate begins.
So, what was all that about?
I'm thinking it's a good idea we said Dad sent us.
Yes. We should do more research into these Castellanters.
Bert narrows his eyes and looks to the others in turn. My current theory is that Mom summoned a demon or Asmodeus to make a pact or something, and then she sacrificed Ellie for that. It's a possibility. We definitely know something fishy's going on with the mom.
I'm also interested in these red and green creatures. They sound like devils or demons or something of that nature, though I would guess devils by the color. You see, a devil takes on different colors depending on how powerful it is. The weakest devils, like imps, might be green or yellow-green, but the stronger they grow, the redder they get, with the most dangerous being pure red, bright like fire. I think that after we finish checking the second floor, we should return to that library. I've found that if you truly want to know what someone's like, you take a look at what they read.
The others consider a moment, and then nod in agreement. Pushing open the door directly opposite Ellie's, Kosef reveals a small, largely unremarkable bathroom, although 2 items do catch the paladin's eye. Firstly, the window. Unlike the others in the house, it isn't boarded, and through it the man can see the red sunlight of late evening, probably about 8 o'clock, or 45 minutes until nightfall. More so than the window, though, Kosef's gaze is drawn to the mirror hanging over the sink. It's large, and the edges are fogged, as if someone had just taken a hot bath in the room, though that would be impossible, as the air is dry and dusty. A long vertical line runs down the center of the glass, almost like a crack, but far too straight, as if someone had sawn it in half and stuck it back together again. On the sink below it are 2 bright red candles, identical to the ones that the group had found in the servant's bedroom, although these are burned almost completely down to the wick.
All right, I think I know what we need to do. We need to light some candles and breathe on that mirror.
Leyland whips out a fire starter and reaches for the candles, but Kosef holds out a hand to stop him. I feel like we should not light any demonic candles in this place.
Yes, that's probably not a very good idea.
I actually think we should disarm the sink. And so, Kosef sweeps the candles into his bag, leaving Leyland to look on, disappointed. The group heads out into the hallway again and quickly enters the next room, which they see to be some sort of nursery. A silver crib with a mobile of angels stands on one side of the room, near an armoire and a small table. Nothing seems particularly out of the ordinary, although as Leyland and Kosef search through the dresser, they find that, unlike the rooms of Terenzio and Ellie, no clothes have been left behind in the nursery. Vinberger strokes his chin.
Well, perhaps the child grew up.
What an optimistic view.
I think that one of the parents actually took the child.
That's another possibility, where the child then grew up with the parent.
Hopefully.
Finding nothing else of note, the group departs the nursery, and Serial announces that he and Ragnar are going to do as Vinberger suggested, and search the library for any clues that might shed light on the Castellanters' true nature, and perhaps look for a genealogy as well, or records on the building, to see if the house had any occupants before the Castellanters. The two head downstairs, and Kosef, Leyland, Bert, and Vinberger continue on to the next door. Opening it, they find a room that seems to have once belonged to the family's tailor. Mannequins line the walls, wearing half-finished suits and dresses, and bolts of fabric hang from the ceiling, an oddly high ceiling, about 2 feet further up than the others the group had seen on the second floor. A handful of jewelry boxes rest on shelves along one wall, each filled with expensive items of silver and gold, embedded with gemstones. Vinberger and Leyland start to sift through these, the latter taking a few odds and ends for himself in the process. Kosef rolls his eyes, pretending not to notice. But meanwhile, while Leyland is committing theft, Vinberger pulls out 2 matching silver rings, both inscribed with the same impish sigil on the inside band, and inlaid with precious stones, one with a ruby, and one with a yellow topaz. He hands these off to Kosef and Bert, who, after a brief examination and a quick spell, are able to determine that these are some sort of summoning rings acquired as part of a fiendish bargain. One is placed over the second knuckle of either pointer finger, and a summoning circle can then be traced in the air. Kosef gives the rings a quick sniff, and winces as his nose fills with the acrid stench of evil. Satisfied, the group starts to make for the door, though, as they go, Leyland takes one final look into the jewelry boxes, and notices a small pink pouch with the name Elzarina emblazoned on the side. He pulls it out and empties its contents into one hand, finding 4 small pink hair clips. Kosef looks at them, smiles, and takes them.
We'll give these to her later when we go back to see her dance again, because we're going to keep that promise. He slips the clip pouch into his bag and exits the tailor's room, approaching the final, unopened door of the hall. Unlike the others, which are made of wood, and not particularly sturdy, this door is solid iron, and sealed with 3 locks, the largest of which seems to be arcane in nature, taking the form of a large ring carved into the center of the door. Leyland walks up, searching for a keyhole, but finds none. The group stands a moment, perplexed, until Vinberger recalls that many fiendish spells have some sort of blood components involved. He draws a scalpel out of his doctor's kit and, after a moment of hesitation, cuts his hand ever so slightly and traces his blood along the ring in the door. As he completes the circuit, the lock suddenly flashes blue, and the air is filled with the acrid scent of burning blood. The door lets out a loud sizzle, almost as if saying, "No."
Wait, hold on. Why are we using Goliath blood? Why did we think that would work?
He turns to Kosef.
What race for the Castellanters?
Half-elf.
See? There you go.
Leyland thinks a moment, and then gives a small shrug.
Half-elf, huh? Well, I'm a pretty pure-blooded wood elf. I'll give it a shot.
Leyland cuts himself and dribbles his blood into the ring. Once again, it flashes blue and gives a negatory sizzle. Kosef approaches the door next, trying human blood, but once again, the door rejects it. Finally, the two decide to mix their blood together, human and wood elf, to make some sort of facsimile of half-elf blood. Leyland pulls out a mortar and pestle, and they both bleed into it, quickly mixing the blood together. Vinberger dips 2 fingers into the mixture, comments on the unsanitary nature of the procedure, and then paints the blood onto the door. As the doctor does so, Leyland backs up, readying his bow.
I'm gonna make sure no funky demons come at us from behind. Or out of the bathroom.
Vinberger completes the circle, and the door begins to sizzle again. But this time, instead of flashing blue, it flashes gold. The 3 seals give out 3 satisfying clicks as they unlock, and the door swings open of its own accord.
Well, that's unsettling.
Beyond, they see a room much like Ellie's and Terenzio's, although colored entirely in black and red. Kosef and Vinberger look at each other and enter the room first, side by side. But the moment they cross the threshold, Bert preparing to enter behind them, the door swings shut with a loud thunk, splitting the party in 2. Plunged suddenly into darkness, Vinberger turns and bangs at the door, searching for a handle but finding none. Then, through the gloom of the curtained window, Kosef sees 2 large forms rise from the center of the room, enormous purple men with long tentacle beards and quarterstaffs in their hands.
Horace! It's Dr. Vinberger!
The bearded devils charge forward, closing the distance between them in an instant. Kosef slashes the nearest across the chest, channeling divine energy into his strike, sending the fiend reeling back. It swings its quarterstaff in retaliation, but the paladin ducks out of the way and impales the injured devil through the chest. It falls to one knee, barely alive, as the other fiend leaps at Kosef from behind, bringing its quarterstaff down on the back of the paladin's helmet with a solid clang. The man wheels around to face it as Vinberger charges forward to help. But before the doctor can reach the fray, the wounded devil draws up the last vestiges of its strength and launches its long, scaly beard at Kosef. The paladin tries to evade, but the snake-like tendrils twist around his arms and neck, digging into his skin and pumping venom into his veins. Vinberger brings his maul down on the fiend and hurls it to the floor, as Kosef breaks free from its beard, trying and failing to ward off the devil's venom, feeling his vision blur and his coordination fail. There's a sudden flash of gold, and the door flies open again to reveal Bert and Leyland. While Kosef and Vinberger had been locked in combat, the elf and gnome had been repainting the door with the remaining half-elf blood. Leyland lets loose an arrow which sinks into the remaining devil's shoulder. Just as Kosef splits open its chest with a cut of his sword, the fiend stumbles back, swinging futilely with its quarterstaff. The tendrils of its beard leap across the room at the 4 adventurers, but they duck aside with ease. A bolt of icy magic flies from Bert's outstretched hand and impacts the devil's hide, freezing the fresh blood dripping from the gash in its chest. It raises its quarterstaff in a defensive stance, but a final blow from Vinberger drives the life from its eyes. The second devil collapses to the floor, and both fiends begin to smolder, crumbling into ashes as their quarterstaffs shrink to the size of pickup sticks. Kosef snatches them up and snaps them both in 2. As he does so, they crackle and give off sparks of magical energy, as if some sort of current had just been broken. He stows them into his bag to show to Serial later. The group takes a collective breath, and, for the first time, they truly take in the room around them. Colored blood red and obsidian black, it has a very sinister feel to it. Kosef opens the armoire to find it full of black, culty robes with the same impish sigil inscribed on the sleeves as was carved in the summoning rings. Feeling a surge of anger take hold of him, the paladin rips off each one. Meanwhile, Vinberger walks to the window and draws open the curtains, letting in a small modicum of natural evening light, making the room just the slightest bit less foreboding, but also revealing a magic circle burned into the dark floor. Roughly the size of Ellie's rug, it bears a striking resemblance to the sigil of Asmodeus the group found in the office, except that the lettering is absent, as are the strange X's and dots. Instead, connected to the circle where the A of Asmodeus should have been, is a small channel cut into the floor, running to a stone basin caked with dried blood. A small glass knife lies beside it. It doesn't take much to deduce that whatever ritual it's used for involves the spilling of blood into the basin, which would flow from there into the magic circle. Let's not do that. Vinberger picks up the knife and turns it over in his hands, examining it.
Do you think that this is the 4th child's bedroom?
No, the 4th child was an infant when the family moved out. Those robes were for a teenager.
Perhaps the older brother, then. Osvaldo.
Perhaps.
Or perhaps the fourth child never left the house at all.
Leyland claps his hands together.
All right, what do y'all say we hit the bathroom and light some candles?
I think we should tell Cyril and Ragnar what we found here first.
Yeah, let's go tell Cyril and Ragnar. I'm not very into the idea of lighting demon ritual candles. And so, Leyland is left disappointed again. Moving back out into the hallway, the door swings shut behind them, and the locks click back into place. The group descends the staircase and enters the library, where they find Cyril and Ragnar thumbing through stacks and stacks of books. There's a brief exchange of information, and the party learns that the house was abandoned exactly 27 years ago as of tomorrow, and that the Castellanters had actually built the mansion themselves, but had only lived there for a handful of years before Ellie's death. Furthermore, Cyril and Ragnar had tried and failed to find any source of income for the family, despite the tens of thousands of gold pieces it would have taken to build a house like the Duskvale Mansion.
How they're paying for all this, I don't know.
Finally, Cyril explains that while he and Ragnar had been able to locate birth records for Osvaldo, Ellie, and Terenzio, they had found nothing relating to the fourth child. Kosef nods. I say we check out that missing child's room then. A little bit closer. Leaving Cyril and Ragnar once more in the library, the rest of the group starts up the stairs again. They reach the long hallway and cross towards the nursery door. Kosef pushes it open, preparing to step inside, but he freezes on the threshold, foot half raised, for the room he sees before him is not the room that he had left. You see, while the 6 adventurers had been sharing information in the library, night had finally fallen on Castellanter Manor. And that's where I think I'll leave this episode. As the moon rises over the old mansion, dark and vile changes overtake its halls. Strange foes lurk just out of sight, and sinister truths await. Until next time, I've been Ian, and thank you for listening to Episode 1 of The Devil House of Duskvale.